is I'm going to teach you the trippy spin with a balloon. You won't need a balloon. I need it to show you, that's all. So you won't have to get a balloon to learn the trippy spin, but I'm going to show you how to do it. I'm going to use a balloon to show you how. You're going to have to... Whoa! That's what I get for buying balloons from the dollar store. So the part I'm going to be doing with this balloon is this concept that can go beyond a trippy spin, actually. I call it point of reference. Like that, when you're flying, like a lot of people use the horizon. You use other things naturally as a point of reference. When you get into crazy or freestyle, you don't always have the horizon, so you got to like use other things as a point of reference. This balloon is going to be our point of reference, and so that's why I'm using a balloon, because it will just be really easy to talk about, because the balloon is the point of reference. I don't have to sit there and ramble trying to get you to understand what point of this tree I'm trying to get you to look at for your point of reference. And this is really going to help you get into a trippy spin, because basically what I'm going to show you is the first part of the trick, which is a wraparound, a reach around, whatever you want to call it. Like a wraparound is probably a good name. Jesus Christ! Alright, so now we got two balloons for our point of reference here. Alright, I think that'll work. We're going to get into the first part of learning how to trippy spin, and that is doing this wraparound trick. Yeah, so I'm not going to have stick cams in this video. I think they're pointless. I really think that when you're learning to do this stuff, you should be past thinking about anything with your sticks. I think looking at them on the screen, anything like that, is garbage. It's not going to help you with anything whatsoever. The stuff I'm going to show you here will help you quite a bit, because if you're not thinking about your sticks, you'll be thinking about your point of reference, what's going on with the quad, and then you just make that happen with the sticks the way it needs to happen. But one thing I will talk about a little bit, because if any of you, some people are like, oh, I didn't understand what's going on, I looked at the sticks, I understood it a little bit better. So if you need that little part, this is what I'm going to show you about doing a trippy spin. Is you're either pushing your sticks together in the center like this, or you're pulling them apart. This is an interesting thing actually about FPV. A friend of mine and I were talking, and I am more comfortable pushing them in, but most people are more comfortable pulling them out. So when you're flying FPV, there is actually like a regular and a goofy, and it turns out I'm goofy because pushing them in is my more natural way to do a trippy spin. And it actually comes into other things too. Like that's gonna affect the way you like to do a roll and other things as well. Everybody has a dominant side, and there's a goofy and a regular, just like snowboarding or skateboarding. There's a right or left-handedness, like, and it doesn't correlate to you being right or left-handed. It's just something that's very similar. Like I said, I am goofy. I push mine in when I do a trippy spin more comfortably. I can do them both directions. I highly recommend you practice everything in both directions to become as ambidextrous as possible. But when you're first starting to learn, it's better to do it on your natural side. You'll click better, and then it's easier to learn it on your unnatural side after it's clicked a little bit, at least on your natural side. So that's the reason I'm bringing this up, is I want you to think about, play around with a little bit, and find out which is your more natural, which way you feel more comfortable pushing your sticks in or pulling them out as you do this trippy spin. And as you do other stuff, you can think of that concept too. Which way do you feel more comfortable? And you'll see, and as you talk to other pilots, you'll find that like this concept that I'm talking about, that there's a goofy and a regular to FPV. So I fly at 60. I'm going to drop down to about 30 for this, because I bet that's about what most people are doing. And so and that's how I learned it too. So I want to show you that you don't have to go to an extreme angle to be able to do this kind of stuff. It sort of helps. It's a misconception that it makes it easier. You have to know how to do it either which way. And if you're at a steeper angle, you can kind of see more of what's going on. So you'll be able to actually like do more with it. But I wouldn't say it actually makes it easier, if that makes any sense. So I'll do this both directions. And I'll point out which is the direction that more, like the more common way, which is the goofy direction and which is the other direction as I'm doing it. I'll let you see that. All right, y'all. So I'm gonna show you the first couple tricks that you need to learn before you start learning a trippy spin. And we're gonna do that on these trees right over here. So let's get into it. So the first part of working into doing a trippy spin is learning to fly backwards, actually. So if you fly in to something that's covered, it could be a walkway, it could be these trees. You want like about 10, 15, 20 feet of clearance to make it sort of easier, and just get into basically going in and out like that. That's the first part. You want to be comfortable, like kind of looking up and floating backwards. You can't see the ground, so you're judging your height by looking up and seeing how close you are to that stuff, and that can give you like a reference of how high you are. Okay, so you're going to want to do this a lot more than I'm doing it in the video here. I'm just basically demonstrating the trick for you, but you're going to want to put like time on the sim, time in a real spot. The more time you put in on each of these steps, the better. And you can even go back to the steps after, you know, like you've been doing trippy spins a bit, maybe you want to go back to this or the trick that I'm about to show you. Okay, all right, so now you've done this a good bit and you feel pretty good going in and out like that. So now we're going to go in and we're going to do a slight roll like that as we go in, looking at those balloons I put up earlier. See how I'm rolling in, looking at the balloons, and then I'm just coming back on the other side of the tree. So come on in, kind of little roll, look at the balloons, float back. This is the goofy side. This is where I am most comfortable doing it this direction, but you actually may feel more comfortable doing it this way. We're gonna come in, look at those balloons, come back out. So when you're doing these things, you're gonna have a tendency to be too low at first and hit the ground, kind of like I've already done. So in the beginning, it's good to kind of like over throttle a little bit, especially if you can find like a place with maybe a little more clearance than where I have here. So basically, as you're flying in, you're gonna have a little roll like that. You're gonna lean towards these balloons and then straighten out as you pass them and go back. See, you could get pretty extreme. You could do this pretty fast, actually. And that's a pretty cool trick on its own. You want to learn how to hand catch and hand launch? I made a video for that already. You can check it out. Not as dangerous as people think. You won't lose your finger, I promise. You got the in-out backwards thing down. Then we moved on to the wraparound. You got that wraparound down. Now we're going to move on to learning the actual trippy spin. And for this, you're going to want to find a new spot. The spot I'm at just happens to have both things in one place. So what you're going to want to find is a tall ass fucking pole, like one of those stadium lights. Some places have like a forest where the trees are enough space. I really like stadium light like this one here because as you see, there's nothing around it. There's no fence, there's nothing for me to hit basically except for grass. So when you're first learning this trick, it's a really nice to have that space around, because you're going to get lost a little bit. And the more space you have, you're not going to like hit things. You're going to be able to take your time to figure it out. And of course, these spots can be found and practiced, and all this stuff can be done in the sim. I highly recommend doing it in the sim beforehand, but for the purposes of this video, I figured I would just do it for real. That's also how I learned it. So you can learn, if you want to learn it for real, just costs you a little bit more, and it takes a little bit more energy because you got to walk and pick it up when you crash and all that good shit. We're basically just going to start out. You could start out doing the exact same thing we did with the tree. Fly in. As you get in there, just keep looking up at that light and then throttle back once you're pretty pitched up. So we're going to keep looking at it. Right about there, we throttle and look, just go back. Now you could do just like we did on the tree. Do the same thing, a little roll. We slide past the pole and we come back on the other side. So this is the regular way of doing it. Like I told you, I'm goofy. I like doing it this way. I mean, I'll do it anyway, but this is my natural side right here. Most people, their natural side is gonna be doing it like this. So, you've gotten that down. You're pretty proficient at that. We're just gonna stay in this spot a little bit more. So see, I came out like 90 degrees from where I went before. See? So we're just gonna stay in that trippy spin spot as long as we can. And the more you work it, the more, like here, I'm gonna do a 180 basically. Fly in past it, get as much roll as you can, and come back out. So you're just gonna keep doing this and increasing it until you feel comfortable to just sit in that spot. You might get a full rotation, and then it's hard to, you know, you need to get out. So I think you guys are probably seeing the concept by now that, you know, you start with this wraparound thing and you basically wrap it around more and more and more until it basically turns into a trippy spin. And the more you practice that, eventually you'll just be able to sit there indefinitely. In the beginning, it's going to feel like you can only achieve that for like little moments at a time, but the more you practice it, you'll actually start to feel the control to sit there indefinitely. And then if you even practice both sides and keep doing it even more than that, you can actually fly around in that state, especially if you go to like a high camera tilt, like 60. All right. So we're gonna fly in, keep the top in view, give it a little roll, pop out. So here's the thing, once you're in the trippy spin, basically almost anything will get you out. Like we're going here, I'm gonna do a half roll. Look at that, I'm out. So I'm gonna get back into it again. I'm just gonna look forward, I'm out. Get back into it again. And I basically flipped out of it. See, so like almost anything will, one of the easiest ones to do though is half roll and you're out. Because you're kind of already in that roll already, you just increase it, you're out. So yeah, basically you're just gonna get in. The other thing too is once you start feeling this position where you can stay in a trippy spin, the thing to practice next is get in the trippy spin and climb. I'm gonna climb up. See, I'm gonna get as close to the top as I possibly can, and then I'm gonna actually drop it back down. And this is a nice spot because I can actually see those lights? I see those bottom lights. I know I'm right at the ground, and then I can basically climb back up the pole. And if you can stay right under these lights, and you know you can stay in a certain spot, then you can also do it under something really low too, because you'll know that you can keep it just at a certain spot like this. See, because I've gotten to the point from practicing it up high and keeping it right where I want it up high, now I can do the exact same thing down low. So always remember, practice both sides. Practice switching directions. And one more thing you can practice, doing a roll, catch it again. Do a roll, catch the trippy spin again. Do a roll, catch it again. Do a roll, catch it again. Doing that roll to trippy spin, back to roll to trippy spin really helps you, like, once you've got the trippy spin down, that will really help you basically get in and out of it really quick, because that's essentially what you're doing as you're doing that roll. Is you're rolling out of a trippy spin, and then you're having to catch the trippy spin again as you come back around. So the more you do that, it sort of helps you get to where you can just get into a trippy spin from almost like any position that you want into the trippy spin. All right, man, I hope that helped you guys out. Hope to see a lot more trippy spins out there, and thanks for watching, man. 12 pack out.